We should have video. Oh, hello. Hopefully you can see us. Here we are. So we wanted to say hi, and then we're going to turn that part off. If I can go back to figuring out where that is.
Participants, are we in?
It was right there. Okay, so I'm Cindy and Christy. Hi, everybody. So we're gonna get off the video and let you look at the slides. So this webinar is about the fiscal year 2016 Maryland STEM grant. This is not the first year this has been in place. We've had it for a few years now. And so we're excited that it's back for 2016 and that we have access to these funds again. So hopefully we can do some really great work in STEM this year again as well. So I do want to go through this. My contact information is there in the first slide. It's also at the last slide, and most of you have access to it anyway. You've heard enough from me from emails. So anyway, yes, ma'am.
Will you click on the chat? I don't know if we need that open in case somebody messages us.
Okay. Okay, so it's a little tricky for me to send you things from my email right now when I'm actually doing the webinar, but I did send slides this morning from the webinar. But if you do have the RFP in front of you, you should be great to go. All the information basically is taken from the RFP, and I will send them out again if you message me or email later, but it's really hard to do that right now when I'm giving the webinar, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, hopefully that helps. So if you have the RFP, you should be great. Okay, so the first thing was the STEM grant RFP went out on August 3rd, 2015 in an email to STEM coordinators and was also posted on the MSDE grants website. So I did send it out to all the contacts I had before this webinar as well, so you had the slides and the RFP. The due date is October 5th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you can email it to me by that time, and that's totally fine, or you can send a hard copy in time that I will get it by October 5th at 5 p.m. So just want to make sure that's clear that I need it in my hands by that date at that time. That's really important. I want to get this money out to districts as soon as we can. So it's really helpful to have it on that date. So there is a little bit more than $1 million in funding for this grant for 2015-16. Last year there was $1.3 million, and to be honest, we are really fortunate that we still have this much money to spend in this area. A lot of other programs took a way bigger hit than we did, so we're really grateful that we still have that. So I just want to make that clear up front that I know that Dr. Lowry is very supportive of this money going out to districts, and I'm really grateful to her for going to bat for us a little bit for this. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. The project period is from October to June 30th, 2016, and I'll talk more about that in a later slide about some things, because I think some of you have probably some questions about earlier money that was spent maybe. Okay, I'm going to have to mute some of you that are, let's see, there we go. Mute on entry. Okay, sorry. Okay, the estimated grant award is $25,000 to $75,000, and we're going to talk more about that in the next slide. Eligible applicants are Maryland local education agencies only. That's Maryland public schools that are in a local education agency, just to be very, very clear about that. We actually had some people emailing us and asking us to participate in this webinar, and they were not even in Maryland. So anyway, just want to make sure I'm clear. The grant amounts will be awarded based on the complexity of the project, the total score in the review process. I did have points in what is essential in the RFP, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And then also size of the district. So if you're a larger district, you should probably ask for a larger sum of money. If you're a smaller district, you should probably ask for a smaller piece of money. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So we're kind of saying the ballpark for what that is, but, you know, as an example, some of our smaller districts shouldn't be asking for the $75,000. So this is based on available funds, and the funds for new STEM awards for FY16 will not be granted until all reporting requirements have been met on prior STEM awards. So if you have a report that you haven't submitted yet, you need to get that into me before October 5th. And I'm going to go through who all has turned in those reports and let you know as soon as possible of what you still need to do before this money can go out. So as most of you know, this is a transition time. This grant had been managed by George Newberry 2 years ago, by Kim Gant last year, and then I just transitioned to me as of August 1st. So just want to make you aware that that there is a little bit of transition going on still of figuring out what districts still need to turn in reports and who has a no-cost extension and all of that. So I appreciate your patience in that. We've had some good questions on email lately with that. Okay, so here are the absolute priorities that must be included in your RFP. The first one is it must include implementation of the Maryland STEM Standards of Practice, and at least one or more of Maryland College and Career Ready standards, Next Generation Science standards, Maryland Environmental Literacy standards, and Maryland Technology Education standards. If you aren't familiar with one of those categories, I would encourage you to talk to your other content experts at your district and maybe figure out how to work together to include those standards rigorously and then also at age appropriate grade level. So this is STEM, and STEM's an integrated approach to teaching, so I'm hoping that you will use your colleagues to better integrate your content. And so that's one reason why we say at least one, hopefully more than that. You know, throughout your grant proposal, it may be different standards. It may not be focused on one activity, so you may have another activity that focuses on NGSS and STEM standards of practice versus maybe environmental literacy and STEM and college career ready. So just giving you some examples there, but the point is to try to integrate content. So those are our absolute priorities. You would want to be pretty specific of how you want to implement those standards. So don't just say, well, this activity is aligned to next generation science standards. You'd want to kind of highlight which standards that does implement. So then Maryland STEM priorities. So you have learned about a strategic plan that we've had on a website, and I have the website for that later. But these 4 areas are the main points of that. I did not include the 5th one, which is communication, which really should be embedded throughout all of them. So the first one, equip educators with skills and tools for learning that create and or enhance their capacity to offer high quality STEM instruction for all students. So basically teacher professional learning and really giving teachers tools for teaching STEM. The second one is provide access to high quality STEM resources that support teaching and learning of content and STEM proficiencies to prepare students for post-secondary study and careers. So, you know, if you need to buy some resources, whether that be you need, as an example, like Engineering is Elementary, or some of you have expressed interest in implementing Project Lead the Way launch, that would be an example of a STEM resource. It's really important here, and I want to make sure I address that it's not all about stuff, it's really about teaching and learning, and the stuff supports that. So please, when you write your RFP, don't focus on, well, we need to buy iPads. Well, why do you need to focus on buy iPads? You know, how does that improve teaching and learning for students and teachers? So that's really one thing I want you to think about when you actually write your RFP. The stronger proposals will address that this is how this is going to change learning for the better. So you want to make sure you think about that when you write. Okay, so the last 2 here for the Maryland STEM priorities are promote equity in STEM education by providing access to effective evidence-based strategies. What I mean by that basically is all kids need to have access to STEM. We don't want to see this just focused on gifted and talented students or other groups. all kids need to have access. I know it's hard in bigger districts, but you want to just make sure it's not just totally focused on one particular group of students. We really want to see in-school types of things. So you can have an out-of-school or after-school component of this, but there's a certain percentage it can't go over, and we'll talk about that later. But I do want to make sure it is reaching out to more students than just a certain category. The last one is provide students with the opportunity to participate in STEM hands-on learning experiences during in-school and out-of-school time learning, so whether that be robotics or computer science or something like that, but really getting them engaged and feeling what the real world does when it comes to STEM, which is hands-on, collaboration in a team or something like that. So that's a pretty important thing. If you have questions about those areas, you can get more information at marylandpublicschools.org/STEM. It's a good site, and a lot of you actually have invested some time into that and helping with that, so I appreciate your help on that. And if you have any questions, you're also more than welcome to email or call me, as you know. So allowable costs. This is saying costs incurred prior to the approval of the application packet will not be funded through the award without prior approval. I know that this grant is getting out late to you. If you have a question about can this fund something that we had to do this summer, it can, but you have to have prior approval. So you just need to ask me, and Christy, you're more than welcome to jump in on anything. So your expertise is in this area.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just make sure that you have the prior approval before you charge anything like that to the grant. So, make sure you get with Cindy, you've got the written approval, and then you can go forward from there.
So just want to make sure you know that. So implementing integrated STEM programs or courses for elementary, middle, and high school. I know some of you have a STEM class at an elementary level. That would be an appropriate use of funds if you wanted to build that class or expand it to another school. That would be fine, but just want to make you aware of what allowable costs are. And then you also can purchase technology and equipment that supports transdisciplinary STEM teaching and learning, but then also you need to make sure that you talk about the professional development for the use of this technology. So just giving a teacher an iPad in a box isn't necessarily what we're looking for here. We want to make sure that they know how to use it and how it really supports STEM teaching and learning. Again, it's not just about the stuff. So I just want to make that clear. And then you can also use it for programs and or initiatives that will advance the STEM education of the English language learner and or gifted and talented student. So you can use it to support that, just not, you don't want to have it fully supporting just that. Okay? All right. And the last slide, I think, for allowable costs is you can use it to extend partnerships that involve scientists or engineers working with students on site or, virtually. So you're more than welcome to use it for that, to get them there or to help with technology maybe to support that. And then the last thing there is materials and supplies to support the curriculum development and professional development for STEM. So those are also some things. Oh, and then I do have another slide here for allowable costs. Sorry about that. You can use it for substitute teacher fees or faculty stipends. Now, stipends only can be given if the work is performed outside the regular workday. So you don't want to give a stipend to a teacher who's doing work during the school day because that would be kind of double dipping. So we don't want to pay for that through this grant. And then you can have consultant services. I know someone already asked me about that amount, the $500 per day, and so if there's a situation where that is not high enough for some reason, please contact me and talk to me about that and let me know, and I can take a look at what that looks like. So just, we do have that amount there, but if there's a certain situation that it may need to be different than that, then just let me know, and we can look at it. Administrative costs not to exceed 5% of the total grant, including indirect costs. That's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, I'm going to unmute you temporarily and see if there's anybody with questions. Does anyone have a question so far to this point? We're about halfway through. Anybody? Amy, do you have a question? I see your mic there moving for me. Nope? Okay, sorry.
I have a question, Cindy. This is Sandy Pachella from Worcester County.
Okay, Sandy, go ahead.
I want to use some of our funds for professional development around what we call cornerstone projects, which are transdisciplinary projects that are STEM projects, but the teachers need professional development on how to implement them in their classroom.
Absolutely.
But it's unlikely that that will take place until June or July because that's when the majority of our professional development takes place, is in the summer. This ends on June 30th. We've been able to get extensions until the end of August before because of summer school programs. Will that be the case again?
Absolutely. You can get an extension, but it needs to be a written request before June 30th. So you should have no problem with that.
45 days before, yeah.
Yeah, so that's no problem at all. But I know that this year we've had some people. We just do need to stick to that June 30th date to be fair to everyone. I'm just going to say that now. So anyway, but yeah, that's no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yep, you're welcome. Anybody else? Anybody have a question about anything so far?
Hi, this is James. Can you hear me?
James, sure can.
Okay, yeah, I'm in Montgomery County, and I'm just waiting to figure out because with our restructuring, this has kind of shifted from one office to another. So
okay.
I need to find out where we are in our final reports for old money.
Okay, and you know what? That is a conversation you and I should probably have offline, and I'd be happy to help you out with that. And I'll try to send you my email address.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
And then you can have that, and we can touch base after this. Okay? Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, I just sent it to you. All right. Does anybody else have a question so far? Okay, I'm gonna put you all back on mute, and then we'll check in again with you in a second. Okay, so funds may not be used for tuition, such as grad classes or something, purchase of food, program maintenance at current performance levels, so this is something to kind of go above and beyond in STEM or to start something new. Purchase of career information delivery system site licenses. So that's not saying all site licenses for something, it's saying career information delivery system site licenses. This is not to be used for membership dues or fees. What just happened? Can everybody still hear me okay? It looks something just changed on my screen. Okay, I think we're good. Something just changed on my screen. Okay, great. So it can't be used for membership fees or dues, and you don't want to use it for purchase of curriculum materials for new programs beyond a 3-year period. Okay, so then the next page is that you can't use it for STEM bling as nice as it would be to buy t-shirts and keychains and backpacks or whatever. We really want to focus on the teaching and learning and not so much the extra. You're more than welcome to do that out of your huge budget that you have. Sorry, we want to stick to the teaching and learning for this grant. And then we cannot use it for construction of temporary or permanent structures, purchase of equipment for administrative purposes, grant or costs that exceed 5% administrative and indirect costs, and then also for salaried employees other than stipends for professional development activities associated with this grant. Okay, so that has not changed at all from the last year's cycle. That's the exact same as it was last year. Okay, so then limited use of funds. So you can't use it for more than 25% of the grant may be used for student activities which occur beyond the school day. So, you can use some money for after-school programs, but not more than 25%. And then you cannot do, it says no more than 40% of one salary and not to exceed 25% of the total grant may be used for a staffing position. This is not to be used for sustainability for that. So if that's something you want to sustain, a staffing position, that's something that the district would need to pick up. Okay, so here are the required components, and there's 100 points possible. So there are some components that are not point oriented, but they are required, such as the proposal cover sheet, the project abstract, and the table of contents. Those are required. There's no points for that. That should be pretty cut and dry for the most part of what you're doing there. So that should be okay. And then now here's where the points start. So the project narrative is a very, very important part. It's 20 points. It is a 10-page limit. So you're really here addressing the need for the project, why this is needed. You know, you might want to say how this continues from your 2014 or what did you learn, or 2015, what did you learn from your 2015 grant that is impacting or influencing this request? So that would be really important. You do want to state what your objectives and outcomes are here, but give us a clear picture for what this looks like. So what training are you giving to your teachers and how is it impacting student learning, and how things kind of fit together. So this is a really important piece. If you want to ask some questions about it to me on an email, you're more than welcome to do that. But this is a really, I can't express enough, this is a major part, it's 20 points. So you want to nail that. And then the number 5, really the implementation and governance plan. How are you going to implement it? How is it aligned to standards? What professional development are you going to do as part of this? So that's an important piece. The next one is the management plan. Kind of who's going to be turning in reports, who's going to be keeping track of the budget, that kind of stuff. It's more the business side of it. So it's 10 points for that part. So then number 7, project timeline. So when is this all going to happen? So you have to kind of think about that. And I am planning on sending you a timeline with when the reports are due, just to give you a kind of a visual copy of that. I think it'll be helpful to you so that it's not a surprise when you get a request for a report coming up soon. I do want to try to be helpful for you in that way, but you do need to submit a project timeline for how this all kind of flows together and when you're going to implement. It all can't be implemented in September. That would be a lot of stress on you as STEM coordinators and grant writers, so you do need to think about how you want to space that out. Okay, so then number 8, key personnel description and qualifications. So who is going to be involved in this implementation of your STEM grant? What are their roles, you might want to say? And then evaluation plan. How do you know if this is going to make a difference? How are you going to know what the impact is? Are you going to count kids? Are you going to see what their sense is towards STEM after they go through this activity or teaching? So you need to consider what you're going to do for that. And then the next one is a really big chunk because it's 20 points. It's the budget. How are you going to spend your money? You'll need to give me a narrative and a budget expense spreadsheet, which can be a C-125. Some of you may have something else you want to do for a spreadsheet, but you will have to submit a C-125, so you can use that for that. And sustainability plan. So how are you going to continue this work after this grant? So, you know, I do want to point out this grant's kind of on the chopping block every year. So you do want to kind of be thinking, how can you carry out this work if this didn't exist? So hopefully we have it next year, but we just never know until the Legislative Assembly comes around if we have it. So how are you going to continue this after this grant cycle? Okay, and then any bibliography or footnotes embedded throughout. And then here, I should not do that mouse right there. If the appendices are basically your letters of commitment from the project partners. So if you are going to implement a STEM class at a school as an example, you would want to have a letter from the principal stating that they're going to implement this STEM class, and then what kind of training would go on. Or if there's an after-school program, that you would want to say who's going to help manage that and then have them sign a letter of commitment. So that's pretty important because it's going to show if it's going to be implemented well or not, and what kind of risk that is. And then we also need a signed assurance page from your superintendent, signed in blue ink. And I did actually, on the signed assurance page, added agency as a little line so that when your superintendent writes me his signature or her signature and it's really messy, I can remember who it is if it's not attached. Sometimes I've gotten those pages not attached to a grant or whatever, and I can't remember who signed messy or not. Okay, so that was all of the requirements for points. So here are just the kind of the technical parts of that. So you want to make sure you have 1-inch margins, that the abstract is 1 page, that is 12 space font. So I don't want you to get down into 8-point font and then 1/2-inch margins and trying to squeeze so much on there that the people reviewing go crazy. That wouldn't be good to not make them happy. But you can use single spacing in the charts, and then you can use a type size of 10-point font in any charts that you may have. Whether you have them or not, it's up to you. So I just wanted to point that out. You want to make sure that the people reviewing can read it. Okay. Okay, and then the cover sheet must be the first page. You should have a C-125 budget sheet that is signed, and then it has to be in blue ink. This shows us that the person signed it. The application package without the cover sheet, table of contents, budget narrative, budget form, signed assurances, and appendices must not exceed 10 pages. So basically that's like the narrative part, the implementation and governance plan, the management plan, all that kind of stuff together would not exceed 10 pages. So you want to really look at where the points are, and those are probably the things that you would want to make longer. Give us a clear picture of what program or what programs you're doing, what they look like. That's really important. All right, and then any tables or charts must follow the prescribed format. Those are on the previous page. Should be on standard size paper. And then you can send them to me electronically if you want, or if you aren't going to send them electronically, you can send them through the mail, but please let me know that it's coming so I can be watching for it. I don't think this last bullet applies so much anymore, but I left it just in case that someone's sending a paper copy versus online email. So if you are going to submit a hard copy, you would want to staple those in the corner. I don't want to have spirals or wire or any other clasps or anything, so it's easier just to have staples for that. So email's the easiest by far for me. I know that may be not the case for all of you if it's a little bit lengthy. So just wanted to make that clear that you've got 2 options there to submit. So if you do submit a hard copy, they all have to be here to MSDE by October 5th at 5 o'clock. You would need to send 1 original and 2 stapled copies at that point, and then my address is there, and then you all have my email address and my phone number on a previous slide. And then here is our review process. There's really 4 steps. A pre-screen application will happen to make sure that it has all the required sections. If it does not have all the required sections, it will be disqualified. So I do want to make sure that you use that as a checklist, really, the required parts. Then there will be a review committee that will be made up of MSDE personnel and also external partners. The third thing, which is kind of an optional thing, probably won't happen, but there may be a follow-up phone call to determine there may be some questions. So it says applicants may be scheduled for an oral program presentation or site visit. I don't see that happening as much, but if there are some questions, we may ask you to have a phone call with us or a WebEx or something. The 4th thing is just final approval will be determined by the designated committee. So just so you're aware of that. And then we do reserve the right to take into consideration geographic distribution when making awards. But this is really going to be like the other STEM grants. You know, last year, all districts except for 2 who didn't apply received money. So you have to turn in all the required components. It has to be a good plan. But this isn't going to be something where only 10 counties get money or something. So do want to make that clear, but you do want to do a good job. Okay, I'm going to unmute it and see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Cindy, it's Jason.
Hi, Jason.
The RFP paperwork you sent all of us, it's rather lengthy, but I see that this PowerPoint you provided is more concise. Can we use that as a reference instead of the RFP?
Well, all those slides from the PowerPoint are from the RFP.
Okay.
So I would encourage you, I mean, if you're trying to distribute it to others in your district, you're more than welcome to distribute the PowerPoint, but please do use that RFP, as there's a couple little technical things in there that I didn't talk about that I thought maybe you could just read.
Gotcha.
But you are more than welcome to share this PowerPoint with others. That's no problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I do want to, while you said that, I'm glad you said that, it's been recording, and so I'm going to, I'll send an email out to those, the STEM coordinators and any of the other people that have told me that they were going to be on, so that this will be on our MSDE YouTube page as soon as I can figure out how to do that. So I've never done that before, but I'll get it figured out. So we will post it.
Cindy, this is Sandy. I have another question.
Okay, Sandy.
I'm a little confused. I know what an implementation plan is, and I know what a management plan is, and I know the difference. I don't know what a governance plan is.
Okay, let me go back to that.
I've been asked to write one of those.
Yeah, let me just basically, and Christy can help me fill in, basically who's going to do what? Who's responsible for, and the management plan is kind of reporting, but who is going to implement this after-school program?
Implementation plan.
Okay, so hold on.
So governance really covers, like, how are you going to make sure that this is staying on track? Are you going to have a steering committee? Are you going to have an oversight committee? Do you need one? You know, who's just going to make sure that this is staying on track and in what format? So that's kind of like the programmatic side, like the implementation and governance is really the programmatic side, and then the management plan, like Cindy said, is really like the business side of things, the logistics of it, you know, the reporting, the budget, you know, budget analysis or financial administration, things like that. Does that make sense? And I think, Sandy, it was you who asked if you could do a logic model or an action plan. And a logic model would fit well, you know, in many places in a grant, and you could do that for the implementation. Your governance plan may be something as simple as, here, we're going to have a steering committee, we're going to meet every 2 months to make sure that this stays on track. Your governance doesn't have to be significantly detailed. Just how are you going to make sure that program stays on track? Does that make sense?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Christy's very helpful. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is James in Montgomery County. Can you hear me?
James, I sure can.
Okay, can you, in a few sentences, explain what the cover sheet is?
The cover sheet's just kind of like the title page.
Okay.
So in the RFP, that's probably an example of a cover sheet, right?
We have a new one that should have gone out, but you know, it may not have gone out to the STEM coordinators, and so I'll make sure that Cindy has it and she can send it out to all of you guys, and because I don't see it in here.
I didn't see it in the template.
Yeah.
That's not a cover sheet?
No, this is our cover sheet.
Oh,
we have a new proposal cover sheet, and so I'll get it to Cindy, and she can send it out to all of you guys, and then anybody who also goes to the Grants Administration website, we're doing some updating, so it may or may not be there right now, but I'll make sure it gets on the web.
James, great question. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, very good question. Very good question.
Okay. All right. And some of you that are on the phone, if I don't have your email, if you would be willing to send it to me through a private message, I'd really appreciate that, so I can get all this information out to you as well. So I know I see some names that I am not familiar with, so would be happy to send you anything that you need down the road. So last year, every district that applied received a grant. Just to clear that up again. So, like I said, it has to have the required components, and it has to be some quality. So, last year 2 districts did not apply at all for a grant. So everybody, after the grants kind of were decided, everybody got a little bit more money because those 2 districts didn't apply at all. So I do want to tell you that. Okay? So hopefully it'd be great to give out 24. Any other questions?
They just encourage us to discourage everyone else.
What'd you say? Okay. Any other questions? Well, if there's no more questions, then you have 23 minutes back to yourself today. So hope that helps some of you.
Hey, Cindy.
Yes?
Sorry, I didn't realize I had my phone on mute. I was trying to ask a question. This is Chris Kopko in Washington County, by the way.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You talked about submitting the grant, and it can be submitted just electronically. Is that correct?
No, you've got two options. You can submit electronically, or you could submit a hard copy. But if you do a hard copy, let me go back to that slide just to make sure you see that. Right there. If it's a hard copy, Chris, I need you to give me 3 copies. 1 unbound and then 2 stapled. Okay?
So, but you can submit electronically, and then you don't need to submit a hard copy if you submit electronically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's try to save some trees, right?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And time, to be honest, because then if you submit electronically, you got another day or 2 to work on it.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for participating. I am going to probably stop this. I'll wait maybe 2 more minutes online, but, oh, go ahead.
Marquita, just the one thing about emailing, they need to make sure that if it emails in color so that when you print it out that signature is actually in blue ink.
Oh, great, thank you. Yes. Yep, did everybody understand that? Because the C-125 and the assurance page need to be blue ink. So, yeah, make sure you send it in color. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a great start to your school year. I'm going to stop this, but if you have any questions, you can email me, you can call me, and I'll try to get this out to you all as soon as I can figure out how to put it on YouTube, on our MSDE web page. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks.